Welcome to this DB-01 tutorial, part 1. Trying to tell you the things you need to know in the order in which you might need to know them. Switch on. It always defaults to 120, that's the BPM. Doesn't matter what you've programmed, it'll always start 120 BPM. To change the BPM, these are the two knobs here that change just about everything. Select knob and the back knob. Wind it up or down. If you want to move in increments of 10, press, hold. We'll go for 90. To enter notes, press on the step buttons. To play, press play. Pressing on play again pauses, or if you press stop, it'll start again from the start. To change the note, press and hold the note. You see the display, 3C. We'll change it. If you want to go up in octaves, there's the octave down, octave up, octave down, octave up. Add in a few more. I won't go into the synth controls too much because they're pretty obvious and you'll have a lot of fun discovering them for yourself. But 3 waveforms, filter, resonance, amplitude envelope, filter envelope. You can have a lot of fun with them. Drive, sub oscillator, it's a beautiful thing. Detune. We've also got some noise. LFO rate, more on that later, and then LFO level. This is a filter envelope amount, it's also CV amount if you've got CV coming in. As I said, these two knobs are mainly used to change the parameter settings, but as we know it's BPM. This one, even though it says select gate, it's not a gate. When you change it, it's swing. Take it back to 0. FM is the other one. You just switch it on, it's might not seem all that useful, and you can immediately get a little bit of vibrato, but there's lots of great things you can do with it, which we'll cover a bit later on. Now, if you've already got something you think is fantastic, Shift and the record button, you would have seen SAV come on very briefly, that's save, so you've already saved this pattern. Shift, record, SAV. So that's recorded or saved in the default pattern, which would be pattern number 1. In bank number 1 you get 8 banks, and each bank has 16 patterns. We'll look at some of those details a little bit later. So we know octaves, we know notes, BPM, basic controls. How about things like volume? There's no volume knob. Well, all of that is under the configuration menu. To get to that, Shift, this little shift button here, tiny little shift button here, along with all these selections along here, accent, slide, mod, pitch envelope, last step, things like that. You'll go Shift and press the one that you're interested in. The back button gets you back into play mode. So Shift, you'll always be pressing the Shift button. But to get into configuration, it is Shift and the octave up. Now you see lit along here, this represents all the different configuration options. If you click on them, you'll see an abbreviation of what they are. You can also get to them by turning the select knob. It'll display what it is for a second as a 3-letter code, and then it turns into a scrolling explanation. It's the only mode in which that happens. configuration mode is also notable because it's the only menu where you've got to press and then you see the options and then you can select the options. So let's start at the front. Clock. So select, press and hold. We see the options: internal clock, external clock, and MIDI. External clock is where it might be coming in, clock in there. MIDI, of course, is if you're receiving a MIDI clock. I'm going to stay on internal. Next one, min, which is MIDI in. Press and hold. There's all the channels. You can also switch it off. I'm going to stay in channel 10. MIDI out. Press and hold. As usual, 16 channels. You've also got through and off. MIDI clock. Are you going to send a MIDI clock? BRF, which is bar follow. Now if you've got more than one bar, here's a bar, 16 steps. You can have up to 4 bars, or 64 steps in total. If you've got bar follow on, it'll mean the display will change as it moves through the bars to show you what's going on. I had it on for a while. It's alright. We'll see why perhaps you don't want it on a little bit later. Volume. This is an important one. Press and hold. I've got it at 40. You might think it just goes up to 100. It doesn't just go up to 100. It doesn't even go up to 128. It goes up to 255, which is fabulously loud. I dialed it all the way down to 40. I sometimes use pedals with this. Pedals seem to like volume of around 40, somewhere around there. I've got it on unity gain in the door. It's a nice loud volume. It doesn't seem to have a noise floor problem even at 40, so that's where I've got it. Tuning. Press and hold. 440. Make whatever you want. Backup. These last few are things that hopefully you won't need to use terribly often. Back up the unit's memory. You can calibrate. Reset. That's factory default. And the last one, worth having a look at when you get the unit version number. As of the making of this video, this is the latest version 1.05. To get back, press the back button. You get into the default play mode again. Let's have a look at multiple bars. To do that, shift last step. L last step is 16. There's a few ways you can increase the number of steps. You can just, well, actually if you turn this one, that gets you the first step. You turn this one, it gets you the last step. So you can go up to 32. You can see it better if you go here, bar, forward and back, B2. We're still on last step 32. You'll see the display wind down. 30, 29, 20. Setting the length, and of course you can keep on going. If we look at bar 3, go all the way, bar 4, go up the way to 64 steps. Or, since we're still in last step mode, if we go all the way back to bar 1 and just press 16, now the last step is 16. We'll just go up to 32. Let's get out of last step mode. Go to bar 2. Not hearing anything because we haven't programmed anything. Put in some steps. Let's give them some variation. Change the octaves. There's a big pile of nothing. Now, if we go back to the configuration menu, you remember we had that bar follow, press and hold, we'll switch it on, get out of that mode, and now you see the display moves with the bar. The only problem there is that by the time you go, oh yes, I might change the note here, and then it's gone to the other bar, so I find it not as useful as you might think. You go, oh, magnificent pattern. Quick save that, shift record, SAV for save, as you'll recall. Of course, that is an absolute hideous load of nothing, so I'll just quickly go into something I prepared earlier. Let's go here, get out of there, press play. It's just a 2-bar pattern. So we'll have a look at copying sections now. So let's say we love this little first bit here. Let's change it a little bit. Okay, so we love this first little bit. We want to copy that. Well, actually we don't have to stop. Let's keep it running. So we go Shift, Copy. Now you see what happens is the display disappears, so you need to know beforehand what you want to copy. You might need to go back and go, yes, well, I'll record the first 8. Shift, Copy. Now press and hold start of the run of notes that you want to copy and the end. You see CPY in the display, so you've copied that now. It defaults back into play mode. So now we go into Shift, Paste. PST in the display, so you know you're in paste mode. We'll paste one here, and one here, and one here. But you don't have to do it in equal little increments. Now you notice we stay in paste mode the whole time. Get out of that. Then you can maybe delete a few. Do some more little changes here and there. You might decide it's only the first 16 steps, which were decent after all. Last step 16. LFO's a bit weird, maybe. Let's have a look at a quick method though, if you just want to copy and paste one step. So let's see a step that's not as awful as some of the others in this pretty awful pattern. Let's say, well, let's just take the first one. So you press and hold and press bar down. You'll see CPY come up, so press and hold, bar down, copy. Where do you want to copy it to? Press and hold. You see PST come up for paste. So press and hold, paste, press and hold, paste, paste, paste. So that's the quick method. Press and hold, bar down for copy, press and hold, bar up for paste. So now, in this pattern where we have this pretty average sort of LFO happening, let's have a look at the LFO. Shift LFO, and the first thing you notice is you're seeing the LFO display. If we change the rate knob, then you see the LFO a bit more clearly about what it's doing. You notice here we're getting these gradations. So let's have a look at LFO. If we turn the select knob, we see the 3 options, which is shape, sync and reset. Shape, if we go into that, well, if we wind it all the way back to the start, we've got sine, triangle, saw, square, ramp, square, triple decay saw, which is a bit like a bouncing ball, DST, which is dual saw triangle, which is a double ramp down then a triangle, sample and hold, sort of a random mode, noise, and there it is. Let's leave it on sine for now. The other options, sync, which is either on or off, and it's not synced to the clock, it's synced to BPM. So we'll leave sync on, and then we've got reset, which is also on. So the way this works, if we wind that up a little bit so we can hear it. Reset means the LFO will restart every time it gets a gate. So if we go back, it's getting so many gates. Let's get rid of some of them. Now, one way to tell whether you're synced or not synced is because when you move the LFO rate, when you're synced, you'll get a division in the display. Whereas if we go back into LFO, go to sync, well, go to, sorry, reset, reset, turn it off, and now we go to LFO rate, so it's not resetting now on every gate, but it is still synced. Go back into the LFO, so reset is off. Let's turn sync off. So now if we go into LFO rate, the display doesn't change. We've just got the knob controlling the rate. Now the other thing that the LFO controls, of course, is FM level. So if we wind up the rate, now you can do interesting things here with the FM level and the FM rate. If you wander around for a while, you can find interesting points, and that's where the FM control becomes very interesting. Sometimes you have to cruise around for a while to find interesting points. But there's lots of interesting things to be found in playing with unsynced LFO, the reset, and the FM level. And then you can bring in the filter amount as well. preset back on. Let's also have a look at different shapes. So go into shape, sample and hold, get out of that, take the rate down a bit. Change the shape again. So you love what you've done, but it's not enough just to press shift record. You need to create some more patterns. So shift pattern, PTR for pattern. If it's dim, it means the slot is empty and available. If it's lit, it means there's something in there. If it's bright, it means that's the pattern you're on. That's the pattern we're on. Maybe you think that's so magnificent you need to copy it to another location so you can create a variation. So to save a new pattern, number, press and hold, and then press record. 6, save. So now we were on pattern 5 and you'll see quickly loading. If we go to 6, same pattern. So let's go to pattern 7, load pattern 7. Another magnificent pattern. So we know what's in there. If we go to back to pattern 6 and we go, yes, great, but we think it should go into pattern 7, press 7. Now we've saved that into pattern 7. So we go pattern 7, we've loaded pattern 7, but it turns out we don't want it at all. Press both octave buttons, octave up and down, and you'll see delete. Which ones are we going to delete? Do you want to delete 7? Yeah. So now you see that is dimmed, meaning that is empty. Press it. Nothing happens, go to the pattern. Yep, it's definitely empty. So shift pattern, back into pattern mode. Let's delete that one. So both octave buttons, delete. pattern 9. That's sort of a question mark, I think. Do you really want to delete 9? Select. Yeah. So that's gone. And as you remember, to copy, you just press where you want that current playing pattern to go. Let's put it in one of these empty slots here, this one. Press the record button, and now that's where it is. So all these things, all these patterns are in a bank. Which bank? Well, they're in bank 1. We could go into bank 2. Now we press back, and if we go shift pattern, these are now the patterns for bank 2. Looks like we've got something in bank 2. Let's have a play. Another magnificent pattern. Interesting things about LFOs and banks is that your LFO selections, because remember when you go into LFO there's quite a few things to choose. You've got whether it resets on a new gate, whether it's synced to BPM, and of course the shape. That is all set per bank, so you could set it up one way for bank 2, you could set it up another way for bank 1, and then you get the differences. So although you can't program sounds or save sounds, you can save your LFO selection per bank. Finally, you may want to copy from one bank to another. So if we're in bank 1 and then we look at shift patterns and we go, oh, it's pattern 1, let's have a play of that. But you think, I really want that to be in bank 2. So you've got the pattern you want. We go into bank 2, then get out of that. Then we go into shift pattern. Now we see the patterns that are bank 2, and you can do the same copy technique. So you go hold where you want it to go, press record, and you've saved it there. So if we press that, so that's copying a pattern between banks. And that's part 1. Part 2 will have a lot more of the fun stuff, I think. Arpeggio, slide, modulation, things like that. We've covered the absolutely fundamental things and the things that you've just got to know. I mean, there's nothing worse than coming up with a great pattern and then flubbing about at the end going, oh, how do I save it? And then stuffing it up, and then you lose your great pattern. But as I say, even if you know nothing else about saving patterns, at least shift record and you'll have saved whatever it is that you've got. Okay, until part 2, see ya.